So the next question, Greg, you'll start this one. The role of the president as the leader of the team is fundamental to the union. However, the president doesn't have any constitutional powers over the executive and its functioning. How would you go about creating that dynamic between yourself and the other executive?
Again, I'm chewing my cabbage twice, but lead by example. You know, the fact of the matter is that we didn't have a following AGM after having the best turnout, I think, in Dalhousie history. And the executive didn't have the leadership to stand up in front of these angry students and deal with their issues. So, absolutely, leading by example, by being honest, and I guess engaging in the manner in which I interact with other executives. I'm not going to play little games with them. I'm going to, in a amicable way, I'm going to explain to them, you know, what it is that I'm dealing with. I'm going to listen to what it is they're dealing with. I'm going to try and create, you know, some kind of brainstorm on how do we deal with our issues, and then I'm going to take it to students, and I'm going to see what they have to say. That's being a leader.
Chris?
Thanks, Shannon. I think that the most important thing the president can do to lead the executive team is to teach the executive team how to lead their own portfolios. That's something I've been really passionate about the last year as chair of the Executive Review Committee. I've helped to implement a completely new leadership development program to give the executive the tools and the skills that they need to be successful in their jobs. These are huge responsibilities that they're stepping into when they get elected into these positions. And we really need to ensure that, that as students that haven't taken part in such a large position before, that they have the ability to be successful. And that's something that I'm passionate about. I'm really excited to work with the executive team next year in order to give them the support and the help that they need to become leaders themselves personally. And I feel like that's the best way to lead the executive, is to help them become leaders themselves.
And Neil?
I think that on the topic of leadership, something that gets overlooked quite often is the fact that people are not simply born leaders. People are not just leaders or not leaders. Like Chris is saying, you can be taught how to be a better leader. But going beyond that, and especially as those of us who have had the good fortune to be part of something like this, those of us who will be able to be leaders at a certain time and place, the responsibility there is to recognize that other people at different points in their lives are able to stand up and be leaders, and this changes. This isn't as simple as somebody is or isn't a leader, and you have to be able to recognize when people's skills, when people's values will be able to allow them to be ad hoc leaders, will allow them to step up to the plate when it really matters, and so it really is a complex issue, but I think that the fundamental skill that you need as a leader is to be able to divest those leadership skills into the other people that you work with, and also provide a compelling example that other people would like to emulate. So, I mean, first and foremost, it's your personal integrity, not the fact that you can lead people, it's the fact that you can recognize the inherent qualities that others have and bring those out. I think they're there in absolutely everybody I meet, so that's fundamental to me.
Thanks. Greg, you have an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal.
I slightly disagree with Bailey. According to the literature, there's two types of leaders. There's the great man theory that suggests that some leaders are born, and then there is the theory that some leaders can be trained. But the literature tends to suggest that leaders that are trained kind of tend towards the managerial side versus the leadership side. And the difference being is management is more status quo, and leadership is about reform and productive change.
Thank you. Chris, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Sure, thanks. You know, from the beginning, I've always said that I'm going to lead the executive team by helping them get the skills that they need to lead their own teams. But one of my key platform points is also that I want to ensure that society executive and counselors also have those tools required for their societies. You know, this year I've started that process with the executive already, and so I'm really excited next year to expand that process to include counselors, senators, board of governors members, and society executive from science, arts, the various faculties. This is something that I think is
great. Thank you, Chris. Sorry. Neil, you have the 30-second rebuttal now.
I definitely like the idea. I mean, what Chris is talking about with his leadership part of his platform is in some ways related to what I want to do with informal visioning within faculties. The main difference is that I don't think there's a specific skill set, and I'd like Chris to be able to speak to that afterwards because I know there's a lot more to it than that, but I think that people have to be able to decide a lot of their own mandate themselves, and that really leadership takes slightly different forms depending on the group you're talking to, so I'll leave it at that for now. I've got 5 seconds.